we don't use these pens, right? These are the nibs cut bamboo pens. You could see through them actually. If I could get it right, aligned right, you could see through, right? Hold on, right there. So these are hollow pens, but they're very solid. It's very, very hard to like be able to shatter them, you know, by just stepping on it or anything, because bamboo is very tough. And that's part of the reasons why they use these pens. If you're going to ever want to try bamboo stuff, it's very simple. All you have to do, okay, go to Home Depot or Lowe's, okay, or one of these home improvement shops. I think you could get it like at Acme or some other place too. And ask them for bamboos, right? So it's about this thin, slightly thicker than a pen or pencil. You see that? And you know, the bigger they are, the bigger nib you can create out of it. But you really simply need something like a pen size. And you go out there, you buy like a long 6 foot or 4 foot stick, and just chop it, right? Cut it. If you have a cutter, that would help you. And all you have to do is, and this is a trick that a lot of people like me when we started didn't know, you got to put it in water overnight. Once you leave it in water, the bamboo will soften, and then you could cut it. There are YouTube videos on how to cut it. It's not that difficult. It does take a bit of learning how to cut it, but you will learn how, you know, it will be easier for you to cut the bamboo, shape it into a pen, and then you know, you use what's called the sandpaper, where you sand it out the edges and the nib, and then you're able to use this dipping into the ink. As long as you have like a cut in the middle, it holds a little bit more ink, and you're good to go. So if you ever wanted to try it, it's not that complicated. There are a lot of YouTube videos actually that would show you how to do it. So today, having said that, we're going to jump onto the new exercise, and that is doing the sentences and words together. And I'll show you different way of putting together these letters. So each letter theoretically could go with another letter or a set of letters at least 26 times, because I think there's like 29 or 27 letters in Arabic calligraphy, and it all depends on how you count. But if we put, like, for example, there's initial letter, there's medial, middle, if it's middle of a word, and it's final, right? So those 3 places that each letter could be in a word, depending on the position, they could look different. And that's really the complicated part in calligraphy. I usually don't teach that because it takes a lot, you know, out of people. As long as you have a book or a reference resource, you could always look up that information. So I'm talking too much, so I want to get to practice part. If you have any questions at this point, please feel free to put them in the chat as we're starting. Just a quick glance at what we have covered so far. We've covered all the letters, by the way, believe it or not. And you know how to do all these letters. You know how to hold a pen. You know how to, I think most people are there, you know, mashallah, in terms of their calligraphy. There's certain things that, I think certain letters, certain parts that are not perfect, but you guys are getting there. I think the more practice you do, a few of them with ayn, like the top part, that's a little complicated. I understand that. Some of you had difficulty, many of you had earlier difficulty with ra and za. And I think most of you have conquered it or are able to do a better ra and za so far. Some of you, the jim ha kha, I think most of you have gotten it at this point. And the other big ones were the letter ha. For some reason, it's missing from this list. Ha. I think it's a joke, like ha ha ha. It's a pretty bad joke. But the the letter Ha is missing from this list. But so that's a difficult one. But the letter Kaf, and some of you are struggle with like those the pointers on top of these letters. And that's okay, you know, for most part, we're moving forward. So today what I want to do is I want to cover these two sentences, and we could start with those the bottom letters and then go from there. Any questions at this point? Any letters that you want me to go over? And we could do these other statements in Arabic calligraphy. This is a line. But remember baseline? The baseline is right there. Letters go, each letter or part of that letter will go right on top of the line or above the line or below the line. So memes, wows, memes right there, and the ras, right? Those are some of the letters that go below the line. The letter ya in its full form at the end, like the word when they write, I don't know, but I can't even think of a word. Like see me after class, right? So see me, so it could be a name. The ya would be towards the bottom of the line. And so other letters like alif, ta, tha, you know, lam for most part, right? But if it's a full lam, it would kind of go below, so slightly. Dal, alif, these go on top. So that's the baseline that we work on. So I haven't received any questions. Oh, there you go, some things in the chat. Go on. Okay, so how many boxes on graph paper would be between the top line and the baseline? It's always ratio and proportion, right? So it's a good question. So let me try to get my calligraphy pens out. And it really depends on which calligraphy paper you have. I think you have the quarter one, the one with bigger boxes. Then let me find out how many. Oh, let's look at this other one. I'm going to look at some of the other writing that I have done previously, and I'm going to try to find out how many letters. So if I find out for alif, I would know for sure for some of these other letters. Yeah. So if you take a look at the alif that I created, it's about 3 boxes. I'll show it to you. So if you're looking at it, the second right there. So if you're looking at the box, and this is the baseline is on the bottom right there, graph paper, then 1, 2, and 3. Almost 3 boxes will make up an alif. Okay? I say almost because there's no like perfect way, and you know we're just going by the ratio and proportion. So. All right, so are you ready for calligraphy? Okay, so I'm going to go scribe this one. Okay, so no specific letter questions. We're just going to move on to making sure that we form a baseline for what we have. I'm going to stop sharing. Oops, sorry. All right, I'm gonna turn this thing around. This way you can see the letters. First thing first, I will make use of my cell phone, the best use I could make of it. Right? This $2,000 phone should be good for creating a wonderful baseline. You know, why else would I pay for my phone, right? So there you go. This line should be worth like $200 right there. All right. Silly jokes aside, so we have the baseline, and we're looking at the letters. Now, what are we gonna write? That's the other thing. Okay. So I gotta come up with a plan. We're just gonna do quick letters. So if Alif is here, starts off. That's a little bit longer, I would say. So probably like 2.5. Ba here. Right, so about 3 boxes horizontally on my pad is ba. Now I'm doing abjad, so that means I'm covering. Okay, I shouldn't start my Jim here. The Jim should start here on the line. Okay, that's not a good thing. I stopped, so that's why the paper is bleeding. Dal, that's the other one. Okay. Ra is the most difficult one, but it's like a dot going down, and then you slide it this way. Right, so it's 2 parts. Seen would be going down this way, slide up, and then second hook loop is bigger, goes down straight, and then around like that. All right, so I covered a few letters just to get started, just to kind of feel the pen. Again, we're trying to show baseline and all these other lines. Now, I'm going to show you sorry, I gotta work with the video setting here. I'm going to show you the statement that was written, and then I'll flip. So share screen. All right, ready? So let's start writing this one first. If you need help with the baseline, right there. Okay, that's the baseline. The letters should go up, above, like ana. So let me just translate this one. I believe we went over this one, but I eat, ana akul, izan ana mawjud. Therefore I am. Okay, let me check my phone. I'm getting texts. I just want to make sure it's not one of you. Ana akul izan ana mawjud. I eat, therefore I am. So that's just a silly sentence. I want to make sure that you have, this is what you're getting graded on. All these letters that go on the line, above the line, right? And below, like part of the lam goes below. Part of wow goes below, right? That you are paying close attention to. And all of them, right, are same length. So alif, 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 lam, alif, 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 alif. They're all same height, and that they start, like we talked about, 3 boxes. So let's make sure that we do that. Okay, so give me a second and let's get started. Okay, so we're doing good. I'm gonna start my writing too. I don't know if you could follow me, but it's gonna be upside down for you. Okay, so I'm looking at the letter. I hope you have yours done just about right. So I like to basically write, if there's a sentence there, I like to write the sentence first, and then I would do the dots and hamzas, or like fathatain, kasratain, dammatain, or or fatha damma kasra, dabra pesh. So I like to do those later, just because then I see how they fit into the overall picture. And you just have to kind of work in terms of fathas and kasras. You have to, those are like the diacritical marks, you have to know like they're going to be in the same angle. So you make sure you do it at the end. And also, I want you to be aware that many times when they're doing this, beautiful calligraphy work, wide strokes, then the fathatain, or like these two dashes, they're done with a smaller nib, by the way. Okay, so this does look like it's done with a smaller nib. And so don't try to do those calligraphy, those pointers with a big thick nib, because you would struggle with it. Okay. You could try it with the edge of your pen, and that may work. All right. So I just quickly wrote down the statement. I hope you are doing it too. And I'm going to show you some of my mistakes, right? So I'm going to be reviewing my work against what's there. And this way you get to appreciate and make fun of my work. Good deal, right? So we'll do that. All right, so again, as you look at your work, and you could obviously look at my work, and I can't really look at your work, so I can't really comment on it, and I probably don't want to comment on it because it's like the first time you're trying the sentence. But again, أنا آكل إذن أنا موجود. I eat, therefore I am. This is a sentence in Arabic that I wrote down. And if you look at it, this is the red line is the baseline. Okay, make sure you have that. I'm going to show you each letter, right, letter by letter. What are some of the things that I'm doing that are not good? Okay, first of all, I'm going to have a line. So make sure you also do this, right? I'll show this to you in a second. Just like we have baseline, you have a line for ascenders, right? How far up your letters should ascend, and they should stop at a certain point. All of the alifs you see on top, and the lam you see here, and then the alif again. They should all be the same height. Rule number one: make sure they're about the same height. My line's actually a little sliding down, but they should all be on the same height. So that's number one. So you could put number one and see if more than one is offline. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 letters that should be on the line. If you have more than if you have less than 2 letters that don't meet the criteria, but 6 other letters are fine, then put a where is it? Check mark with number 1. You got it, okay? If you don't have it, let's just make sure we work on it. Number 2. So that was like the top line. Number 2 is baseline. I'm going to show it to you now. I've colored it green. So if you look at the baseline, again, the baseline is also on the paper, the screen that you're seeing. If you look at the baseline, I think I'm okay with ana, the first word, but iza is a little bit messy, and then mojud, right, that last word is not that great. Okay, so make sure your letters are all sitting on a straight line. That's one of the very fundamental things calligraphers would do. They would actually, it doesn't matter how how much they have mastered their art, they would first start with a simple pencil line that they could erase later, and that's what they do. They do erase those lines, but they would start with a simple line and do calligraphy on top of that line, and they would use that as their base. Okay, so number 2, if you could just write that down on the side and say check mark or a cross. How'd you do in terms of number 2, right? If you have all the letters on the base, great, kudos, okay? Sorry. I need another chai, I think that's what I need. Okay, number 3. So if you're looking at it, and I'm using my calligraphy here as a sample. The word ana, I feel like I could have done a slightly better job of making sure. So look at the roundness at the bottom of this noon, right? It's not Kufic calligraphy where all the letters are like this, like letters are like elbows, right? But the letters are actually slightly round like that. So if you look at it, the alif and the noon that goes, it's kind of like your hand. If I could have my hand. Get back in there. Okay, maybe like that. Right, so there's like a curve to it, and that's what you want to aim for. If you have it, that's awesome. My letter, I'm looking at it for alif. I think the first part may have it, but not the second. Where it's connected to noon alif, it's really not there. So I have to be a little bit more, you know, pay attention to it and lift my pen off the ground before I start making the alif. Okay. Now akul, I have a big mistake here. So if you look at this one here, the kaf sits on the line. The kaf is a little tricky. What you have to do is you have to, in advance, plan for this letter. If you start this kaf portion right next to alif, so if you start here, alif and kaf, you're going to run into this letter. Kaf is like the longest letter in Arabic calligraphy in terms of what we're writing in Naskh here, right? So the medial kaf letter is one of the longest letters, horizontally speaking. And so you're going to have start here, and you have to know this. Half of the letter is going to go down this way, and the other half is going to be there. So make sure you have enough room. So this is the first part. You go down, and then you go around, and this is still above the baseline. The baseline starts here. If you like a cool way of doing it, a simple way of doing it, if you're very cognizant of, you know, like starting off at the wrong point on the top, what you could do is instead of starting here and not hitting the baseline, you know, because you could be off, you start with the kaf, the bottom line first. All right. And where you link the kaf, you make it lifted, make it slightly uplifting, like, you know, not motivational or inspirational, but, you know, lifted up. How about that? So kaf would go here, and then it starts to rise before it meets the letter lam. Cool. So you could start here, number 1, kaf, like that, and then go top and then finish this. These 2 lines are perpendicular. You see that? And then do the visor, who's the top part, and that's how you could have it. So let's look at my kaf. I think I did a horrible job here, and so look at this. Look at this, right? Where's my thing? Okay, so if you're looking at it, the problem is it's kind of hanging because I realized I started too high, the letter, and then at the end I was trying to fit that on the line, which made the gap between the two lines too wide. It shouldn't be that wide. So this part is a little too small. If had I start at the base and then gone backwards, I think I would have done better. Plus, this part needs to be bigger, extended, and it needs to rise up before it meets the letter lam. It needs to rise up before it meets the letter lam. That's not a good part. I could show it to you again. So if you look at it on the computer screen, you see that instead of going straight, it just goes up a bit and then meets the letter lam. Okay, so you could leave it here and then just go down and connect with that letter. The letter lam is, again, another alif, goes down, straight down, and just below the index line, once you get to the below the index line, or I'm sorry, below the baseline, it's the same thing, index line, baseline. Once you get down to the baseline, then you do the hook, like a sin or noon or a qaf, the bottom part, okay? I hope this is helpful. Say yes, you're following along, or confused in the chat. So all people who are following, say yes in the chat. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, so now we're going into sentences, and what sentences require, or words require, they require that we pay close attention to the overall big picture. Okay, and when you're going to do calligraphy of, let's say, Quranic ayat or verses or anything like that, you're going to have to think about, you know, where this word's going to end in advance. So you have to make sure that you're paying close attention to the letters that are going to be next. Right now, this letter. So let's see how all these letters are the same height. I hope you got that. And there's some space in between, right? When it's typography like this of calligraphy, when you type it, it's the spaces are almost like perfect. Some of the older Naskh calligraphy, the spaces are not like this. They're actually all like a bit mumble jumbled, right? A bit on top of each other, by the way. And Naskh tends to be slightly slanted in those earlier versions. Actually, the really, and maybe if I could show it to you guys, I think that would be really neat. On screen share, hold on a second. Oh, there you go. Okay, so the earliest versions of the Quran, right? Okay, well, we do have the former president one. All right, so we do have. This is so distracting. All these views. So we do have. Oh, the earliest versions of the Quran, right? And the earliest versions of Naskh. It's actually called. I'm looking at all these images, and my brain's going somewhere else. The earliest version there. The earliest. Let's see what images pop up. Okay, so if you're looking at it, oh, here's an example. So if you're looking at it, this is the earlier version. I think this is like Muhaqqaq or Rihani, which, you know, Naskh was kind of developed side by side with this calligraphy. This is not Naskh, but this, you know, this is closer of the two images. Rihani tends to be the shorter version of it. This is what's called the Kufic calligraphy, right? People think that this was the earliest, like the very first of the samples of the Quran that we have, but it's actually not that one. The Kufic, the earliest one, these are the ones that got more famous because they're actually from like 300 centuries after the revelation, like the first Qurans or the Hijrah or Islamic calendar. This is Maghrabi print. It's not Naskh. Trying to get to, sorry. I thought I would come across something, but it's not there. All right, let me see. Sorry about that. Just give me a second. Okay, I believe this is Bihari script. You could see that. This is a particular script that's found in Bihar, India. I could be wrong, but I believe this is it. This is like one of the not. It's really not too known outside of that region. Okay, this is again earlier versions of Kufic. This is Eastern Kufic. This is actually modern. All right, I can't find that. Sorry about that. We're going to start practice of the second one, inshallah, in a second. All right, for some reason, I apologize. Oh, I was thinking about the calligraphy style, and now it's escaping me. We were talking about leaning calligraphy, right? So there's a particular Kufic calligraphy that was like the earliest version. It's actually in Birmingham Library. That's where they have the couple of the earliest Mus'haf of Quran found, and that calligraphy is basically it kind of looks like a mix of where you could see the Kufic is derived from, and so some of like the Naskh elements are in there, and it's slightly leaning. That's what I wanted to show you, but okay. So I'm going to go to the second sentence, but just give me a second before I do that. Okay, so we're looking at this, and if I did bad job on the first alif noon, take a look at the second alif noon, ana, and you can see I did not such a good job either. So I'm gonna. This is better, I hope. So now you're looking at it a little easier for me now. Look at the width of the letter ana here, and then look at the width of the noon letter here. Right, this one's thicker than, or wider, right, than this one. So it should be similar. That's what I'm trying to say. So take a look at it. The word ana here and the word ana there should be, so one here and one there, should be the same, okay, or similar. It should not have that discrepancy where they're not the same size. So take a look at that and make sure you have that, inshallah. Give yourself a check mark if you have both of them the similar size. Now, the letter, the lam's kind of okay. right? It's not the best. But the letter dal, is slightly below, I feel, but at the same time, it has more roundness to it than the triangle. Okay. So take a look at it. Does that fit into those two long linear letter alifs? If it fits well, then give yourself a check. And next one, this is where I needed to do actually good work. Look at the two vowels. This vowel here and the second vowel that you may have to. And oops. So right here, and then this one. They both should have the I, if possible. You should have the I. The meme was kind of like a disaster here. It wasn't a good meme, okay? I definitely had to, it was too tight. Okay, so the meme's a disaster. But the wow here and the wow there should be similar with that I in the middle, the white I. And then, you know, I didn't do a good job here. So the second one, I think I like the first one better than the second one. I think I was hurrying up too much. And then Jim, it should be slightly longer, but it should have that hook in the front. It should have that dark bend. It's on top of the line, which is good. And then it should dip slightly below the line. All right, if you're able to achieve that, that's awesome. Oh, and then this is the other thing I want to say. Take a look, compare your individual letters. Take a look at this dal, the last letter that you have, and compare it to this one. Dal and zal, they should be similar. All right, mine, this one's a little bit bigger. So I don't like that one. Not that the last one's really any better, but I would take this one over this. Okay, so I gotta work on the meme and I gotta work over on the wow. Everything else seems to be on the baseline, which is pretty good. And that's an indicator that you're doing well. If you're able to put these things on baseline, that's awesome. All right, raise your hand if you have any questions in terms of any difficulty with some of these letters or words. And I'll share that typeset. I mean, don't raise your hand. I meant put it in the chat. Okay, so we're doing good, right? Awesome. Now, favorite statement that comes in next. This is slightly more challenging, I would say. Just look at the space, right? Look at this first sentence that we had before, and then look at this one. There's a lot more involvement of the letters. Now, we've talked about how to write the letter ba when it's individual, but we didn't really talk about how to write the letter ba when it's like the final letter in a word. We didn't really talk about how to write the letter ba when it's in a medial letter followed by a ya and followed by, followed by the letter lam, and also which contains, the word contains the letter ya. How would you write it? Ba, and here's another version of it, followed by the letter lam, but then after it is letter ra. So these are like all these rules that people have, you know, so there's certain ways these middle letters would work. They're just way too many to keep track of. All you have to do is you could just kind of follow the writing and copy it, you know. And a good place, and if you really want to know how exactly it's done, a good place to start is looking at the Mus'haf, looking at the Quran. You could have it online, and you could just look at it. Like if you're writing a word like biryani, right, or something like that. So it's ba and ra. How would that ba look? So all you have to do is find ba followed by letter ra, in the middle of it, in the middle of the word in the mushaf, and you could pretty much find it, you know, any combination. So how would you do it? What would be an Arabic word that might be in the Quran? Barara, right? Kiraman barara. So that's one of the words from the Quran. So barabar, it's talking about the angels. So bar would be written in there and you would find it. So all you have to do is just kind of scroll down. That's just a cheat sheet kind of word. Okay, so we're going to work on this one. You guys ready? Some of you started already. It's awesome. I will do it here. So let's do a quick one. I'm going to put a baseline. You should also have it. And let's see where we go from here. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. All right. This time, I'm just going to let you see your... Oh, you know, by the way, this is what you could do if you want to help yourself. It's just a with the I do my markings with pen just so you're able to see it on the on your phone, on your computer, but you obviously you do it with a pencil so you could erase those lines. Okay, I'm not really worried about erasing my lines, so I just kind of go along, but you could do the baseline. So ana ohib, this says I love pizza or biryani. I love pizza and biryani. And you could talk about like two love of my life, right? Those are the two. I hope my wife's not listening. So baseline, what was I gonna say? Baseline, that's the one you have, right? So you have oops, there's a knock on the door. There is a baseline that's written, that's invisible here, pencil line, and then also you could make an ascender line where all these letters will end. So I think Sister Farheen talked about the top part. That could be like 3 boxes on, if that's how much it is on your graph paper. So if you have a graph paper, you could look at it and you could just kind of have a slight pencil line. This way you know it, okay, from the very beginning. And I'll do that for my... Okay, so we're starting.
I got a running nose.
Take your time with your calligraphy. Don't rush it. And the last part is really tough, right? You have to give slight space. Okay, I could share mine with you if you're done. That's awesome. So first part first, I did it without, you know, the nuktas. And if you do it without the nuktas, that's fine. I think the big part would be to discuss the words first, right? Does that mimic what we have? So take a look at my baseline. Sorry about that. Take a look at my baseline, and pretty much all the words tend to be, it's just a little bit more comfortable for me when I'm writing it and not having the computer to show, or just the camera to angle it. So I think my writing tends to be a little bit better. So baseline, we have pretty much everything on the baseline, which is a good thing. The ascender looks good, right? All the alifs and the lam meet there. Then we're looking at the 3 letters, I believe, that descend, or 4 letters. 2 of them are raw, and they look very similar, so I'm happy about that. And the third one's wow. It looks pretty much like the raws, the bottom part, which is intentional and good. And the ya is slightly different, right? But it descends down, so that's a good indicator. Now, when you look at this, Anna, right, that letter, that form right there, and this form is the same thing. But this form right there, that's a yani, biryani, right? That right there is much better than, you could see that. Why? Because I'm going to show you where I messed up. Can you see that? So what I tried to do here, where I messed up, is I did the round noon, and then I went from above and dropped kind of like an alif, but it didn't match. It didn't match the noon. But in the other part, I just, right there. In this part, I started from the bottom, went back up, and it was a smooth transition. So I was able to do it a little bit better. The raws kind of extend out a little bit too much here, right there. But, you know, it's not that bad. So I'm just quickly going to put the dots. Ask yourself as you're doing this, why are you doing it? It's the existential question. Why are you doing it? Beat is hold on. What biryani? All right, now it looks slightly better because we've put the dots in there. So take a look at it. Baseline, number 1, everything on the baseline. If they are, check. Number 2, all the alifs and lam align on the ascender line. If they are, check 2. Now start with, are my alifs straight and my lam straight? Check or cross, you know. Do I have my ha perfectly written, descending down, or is it a straight line? Right there It's not a straight line. It's actually descending. The ha, the bottom line here. Take a look at that. This right here, there should be a long line with the alif before it hits the ba. Okay, so make sure you have that. And something similar here. So the ba right here goes slightly above the baseline. Okay, and then the letter ta here goes slightly above the baseline. And I'll show it to you on the paper. Okay, take a look at that. You see it here? So follow along here. The ta should, if you're doing the writing, the ha is slightly above the first part, but it touches here. But the letter ta, you see that? It goes slightly above. After the lam, this letter ba goes slightly above the baseline. Take a look right there. Right there. And if you're able to get to like that type of you know, difference, and you're able to see it on calligraphy template, then kudos to you. Thumbs up. Very nice job. All right. So anybody with questions at this point? If you're having trouble with anything? And what we could do is at this point, if you like, you could see, I know I have some homework from before. I could go over it. Do you want me to go over homework at this point or any other particular letters before we end? Okay, can we do the extra letters in Urdu? You mean like the forms are same for extra letters. Are you talking about the same? Can you elaborate on that? Because the extra letters in Urdu are like che, te, re, gaf, right? So those extra letters that we have in Urdu, okay, so those extra letters that you have in Urdu, they have the same form, the existing form in Arabic. And by the way, if you're learning, J is also another letter in Urdu that's hardly ever used. But the form stays the same. It's just the dots that makes the difference. So those are not like extra letters. I mean, they're not extra forms, but they are additional letters. Okay, so I'll do those for your entertainment. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. So I'm gonna do that. Any other question? All right, so let's see. What are some of the extra letters? Let's take a look. So alif big. So the first one is in Arabic, you've noticed there's no letter P, right? But in Urdu or Farsi, there's this letter called P or B, right? And basically it's indicated, it's just a bay with 3 dots underneath. Okay, so that's your P in Urdu. There's another one called te. Okay, in you know how like in Spanish, like también, like that, like tomorrow in English, t like tomorrow is a heavier letter than da, like that, también. in Spanish. So in Urdu, actually, it's indicated. The letter ta is a softer letter, but the letter ta or te, and it actually has like a slight tha in the middle of it. It's kind of funny letter. I remember like learning Sindhi, which is a regional language in Pakistan, and they actually have in Sindhi has a lot of like letters with dots and like a ha sounds, che, ge, be, all these letters, and they're indicated by like with like double dots and stuff like that. And so they have a letter. I used to laugh at my teacher. Well, not at my teacher, but whenever my Sindhi teacher would teach this letter, and I'm going to share it with you. But it's actually a noon with like a day sound, right? That thing in the middle, like right there. And that indicated the letter Runa. That's what it's called. It's called Runa. Runa. And I mean, till this day, I laugh at it. It's just, what letter is it? It's Runa. So Rana, something like that. Rana in Urdu and Rana in Sindhi. It's a name, Rana. So Runa this is the letter Runa, but that's in Sindhi. Right? Fun stuff. But this is te, like a hard T. Te, jim he che, jim he che. Oh, jim che. So in another word, like how you have chaplain, the word chaplain. In English, it's written with ch. Arabic, there's no cha sound. So they would just say, Jarli Chaplin, right? I don't know. I apologize. But in Urdu, they would actually put 3 dots in there, and that would be like a cha sound, chaplain. So that's a pa sound, and then with a jim, but extra dots, that's a cha sound. Jim, che, he, he. And so we have a letter dal, right? And then Urdu, that's like a small ba, right? That's what that is on top. That's called a dal. Dal is a heavier, it's like a D sound, and da is a softer sound. So in Urdu, dal, like that, dal is lentil or lentils, and dal, like a heavier sound, which starts with this letter. Dal is actually another word for branch. Dali means like another branch. Okay, dal, ra, za, ra. Right. So another letter that Urdu has. Oops, I'm going for the Arab Urdu script, but the letters. This is your ra, right? And what if you have 3 dots on top? This is not used as often in Urdu, but this is actually, how you have Jacques, right? One of those French names. That's in Urdu. There's only one word that people use, which is Jala bari, which means it's not often used, But Jala, if you know that one, it actually means like freezing rain, okay, or rain. So that's the word, the ja sound. I don't even know how to write it, like an X. And it's not even X, like, because X takes the form of E sometimes. It's just a ja form, right? I don't think English has one too. Arabic definitely doesn't have it. And then another form, my raw is not that good, with like that small ta again we saw on top of it, that's called re. All right, re is kind of like runa, but runa is just a case in itself. And if you want to exercise and not you move your body and only your tongue, then say these letters: be, te, run, che, dad, je, re. Did you get the last one? Re, 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 right? So a lot of times when people are talking, one of the common like thing that they say is are, right? And if you're not, they say like if you're not educated, you tend to say are, you know. Don't ask me about it, the detail. So people with education would say are yaar, like oh my friend, right? But people who are uneducated would say, at least that's how I was taught, are, which is like don't do that. It's Urdu culture. So don't say are, just say are, like that. I'm just teaching a lot of class stuff. So, all right. So, where are we? So, re, this is again, one of you asked, so I'm just going over it. I wouldn't even touch on this unless I'm asked. So, I hope you're enjoying it. Same letters, but these are some of the differences in different languages. Farsi also has some of these letters, but Farsi obviously doesn't have rur, it doesn't have da, and it does not have re. Okay. J, I think it has that letter, and the shin sad and swad zwad, right? In Urdu there's zwad, there's no dod. And Gaf is the other letter. So after Gaf, like this, the Gaf in Urdu is actually written like this. There's actually a dash on top of it, like that, or like this. And that's the letter Gaf. Okay. Sometimes you hear like the Egyptian version of Arabic have like Gamal Abdel Nasser, right? The president, right? Gamal. Instead of saying Jamal. So that's the letter Ga in Urdu they would use. All right, I hope this is helpful. And any more questions on this? You could take a look at it. Is this helping you? All right. Take a look at it. There will be a recording, so you could always go over it. These are the extra letters. You just have to know the dots. Generally speaking, an extra letter, aside from Arabic, would have 3 dots. And in Urdu, the small dot on the top would indicate like this really, I don't want to say ridiculous sound, but like really out there sound, okay? Those are usually not the sounds that people, you utilize for most part, but every once in a while. Okay, cool. I have another one. All right. Sorry about that, I'm still upside down. All right, so at this point, if you don't have any questions, we'll just stop here and you could join. Oh, somebody's, okay. I notice, okay, yes, those. I notice for the word pizza, you put the dots side by side for the, in the print, oh, good question. In the printout, the dots are one above the other. Which way should we do it? All right, that's a great question, great observation. The 2 dots, it becomes like a stylish thing where sometimes they do those, and I'll show it to you. Sometimes they do those dots. I mean, there's no wrong way of doing it. Let me just put it this way. Okay, that's number 1. Second thing, sometimes what happens is that this is like the modern print, right? What happened was sometimes you would have these 2 dots and it could be confused with, they're so close, these letters, that it could be confused that this is a ya first and this is a ba. How do we know? There are 3 dots on the bottom, right? They're so close to each other. So they would indicate that by putting these up and down. And sometimes they even do that with the ta. They would actually put up and, like vertical, one dot on top and the second one on the bottom for the ta, just because it's closer to another letter, za, and which has a dot too, right? So it's just to clarify things that this is indeed a ya and not the first one a ya. Because if these three dots were together, kind of, they should like move it. But if they moved it here, that may be confused as a ya, right? So, but I hope you get the point, right? So it's just to indicate, clarify that this is a ya because the dots are together, which is followed by a ba, and then ya, and then ta. And that's the reason why. Okay, good question. Any last ones for today? So just to let you know, and if you have a question, you can just type it in there. Next class is our final class, inshallah. I will be issuing certificates for you all who have joined for this big journey with Arabic 101 calligraphy. I really thank you for your presence in the class. You're all doing a great job. I think you're almost there in terms of calligraphy, just a little bit more practice. That comes, you're sending me homework. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to indicate how I would fix things a little bit more. Maybe I could talk about individual homeworks. I'm sometimes hesitant to do that, meaning I don't like pulling people's like sheets, especially with your names there, and talking about individuals, because I feel like that's kind of like private one-on-one. But if you're okay with it, I will do that in the next class. The other thing I was going to do is just mark your homework and send it back to you, where I see some things that could be fixed, inshallah, and we've done that in the past too. So I'll do that for the homework that you have sent. If you could take photos of this work that you have done, or if you want to improve on it, that would be great. Practice it a couple of times. I would say 3 times, 4 times, and definitely you'll start seeing an improvement. So the more you practice, the better you'll get, inshallah. And yeah, send it my way. I'll look at it. More questions, let me know. Keep practicing. That's really the key to it. I think it's like riding a bike at this point, right? Because this is like the second last class, and last class will be next month, or less than a month, right? Next, so what I'm trying to say is now this is like riding a bike, right? You never really forget how to ride a bike. You may need a little bit, more time in the beginning once you hop on a bike, but you're not going to forget how to ride a bike. Same thing with calligraphy. Believe it or not, you practice enough, you know how to do calligraphy. All you have to do is keep on practicing, keep on observing these finer details, which I try to do my best to show you all of these things. I make mistakes. On purpose. Sometimes I'm like messing up, just so you see my work and you will pick up some of those things that I want to make sure that I stress those big things, baseline, ascenders, making the same letters, if they're repeating in the same sentence, it should be similar, not different. So those are the things that you should pay attention to. But now it's just a matter of you picking up better supplies, paying close, more time in doing calligraphy, and the more you practice, like Bismillah and other ayat, or words, or you're writing your name, you should know how to write your name in Arabic. You'll do better, and sky's the limit. Most people get good at it. It's not because they had really great teachers. That helps. I'm not going to take that away from it, but most, I would say all calligraphers who are expert masters, they're experts and masters, not just because of their teachers, but because they put the time into it. So you put your time into it, you're going to do really well, okay? And yeah, I think this is something that will be with you.